Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, we're doing a bit of an ultimate PvP guide, taking a look at all the legends and PvP rare recruits in the game, putting them on a tier list for you guys to sort of differentiate what characters are good to level up, what characters are really good on each team, and which characters you want to be using when it comes to Pirate Rumble. Now, in today's video, I am ranking characters based around attacking-based teams. That is the big sort of criteria, and then we have a bunch of tiers to sort of separate the units. Now, I am basing the meta-based units, which is the top of the tiers, as if the strength team is versing the dex team is versing the quick team, and the quick team is versing the strength team. Int and sight, they're a bit interchangeable, but because in PvP we're in such a color-based meta, I feel like this is probably the best way to judge them. Now, when it comes to class-based teams, they are still usable, but for me, I think they're better off as defensive-based teams. So I have included a defense-based tier list, or tier in the tier list, down the bottom for these particular teams. There is one team that kind of shines when it comes to the class-based teams, and that is the slasher team. So they're kind of a little bit of an exception, but like I said, in today's video, we're going to rank all of the legends, put them in the tiers, to sort of see what characters are really, really good for each particular tier. Like I said, meta's at the top. We then have S, which is like the best substitutes. Then you got A, and then B, and then into the defensive based tiers. If they don't make a place on the tier, they're just not good in terms of PvP. Now, I'm not the biggest PvP nerd that there is going around. I know there's a lot of people in the OPTC community that has a lot better or more knowledge than me. So if I do forget stuff, I do apologize. Let me know in the comment section below. If you have some more insight, let me know in the comment section below as well. Keep it friendly. I'd love to learn more about PvP, and I'm sure it'll help some people out as well. But if you do enjoy today's video and you like this kind of stuff, vote the like button for me. If you're new, hit that big red subscribe button for me. Most importantly, though, enjoy the video, and let's dive into the tier list. Alright, so here is the tier list. Now, as you guys can see, we actually have this tier up the top here called Heaven. I actually can't put characters, like, delete them, so I'm going to, like, create this Heaven tier. So we're going to put characters that sort of just don't belong on the actual list. Now, huge shout out to the tier list maker. I'll leave a link in the description for the tier list, and a picture at the end of the video for you guys, as well as the link for the database. Huge shout out to them for the images provided. Now, we are going to kick it off with the PvP rare recruits, but I do have a character that made a special mention. Rare recruit Enel. He's actually still pretty good. As long as you satisfy his conditions for the 5 units for in-base teams, you can still use this guy. He's probably the only rare recruit that is like viable enough to be put on this tier list. But nevertheless, there are some better options nowadays. Log Luffy, I don't know why he's first up, but look, we're going to put him in Heaven. He's never really been good in PvP, so we're going to move him up there. Otama, great for the defensive Free Spirit team. Jozu can be used and was used a lot on the int-based team back in the day. Nowadays, he's probably used more as a defensive option, but like, you still can use him in the front lines because for the first 40 seconds, he's pretty good. Cat Viper, great defensive option for Cerebrals and Strikers. This Sanji, he's okay for strength-based teams. He's kind of like a sacrificial lamb. Great for sort of putting in the middle slot, copying the death, and then bringing in something like Kid. Stussy's pretty much only used on the defensive team now for quick. Whitebeard is still a monster. I'm going to put Whitebeard in meta because Whitebeard is one of those units you can chuck on any color-based team as a nuking option, and he's very, very good. Kagala, Nolan, they're kind of whatever. They were kind of okay on release, but nowadays, like, they just kind of suck. Like, you can use them as an option for nuking, but for me, they're just kind of like whatever. Next, we have Conus. Conus is... she's good against Psy, but like nowadays she's just like you'd never really want to run her, to be honest. Kaku, my man Kaku. Kaku is a meta unit. Shout out to my Pepe boys. They're gonna love to see this. Really, really good for the strength-based team, especially when you are versing Dex. He's great at like destroying that Dex-based team, and he's a really good nuking option for other teams as well. Frankie and Leo, these guys stink. They're probably the 2 worst PvP rare recruits. Look, this Oars, honestly, he's not much better. He's all about critting and stuff like that. So these units are probably like some of the worst Pirate Rumble rare recruits. As for Lore, this Lore is a meta-based unit for me. These 2 here are slashers, by the way, strength slashers, and there are a lot of really good strength slasher units that will pop up on this tier list, namely legends like Odin and Toki. And for me, that's the sort of variation that I like to run when it comes to strength, but there is a bit of a striker variation, which we'll talk about as well. Another meta unit, we do have Solar Mask, another amazing nuking option that you can chuck on pretty much any color-based team. Really, really good at the back end of fights, to sort of just come in and do a lot of damage. Cavendish, I don't hate this Cavendish. I know a lot of people like put a lot of shit on this Cavendish, but for me, Dex driven is actually a thing, and this Cavendish is a really good staple for that team. Rebecca Toy Soldier, Free Spirit Sai is just disgustingly strong, and this unit's passive is insane. They're actually really good as a nuking benching option as well. Shiryu, an absolute staple on the quick team, and Smoker probably is the best PvP unit in the game. This Smoker, if you have a spare slot and you have 20 cost, and you're like, what do I put on the team? Don't care what color, class you're using, you're running Smoker as your nuking option. This guy's your best nuker, and for the int team, he's driven too. He works exceptionally well. As for Cracker, Cracker's an option for strength, but like he's not great. As for Scopper's actually pretty good. I'm gonna put him in S because like he's a good nuking option again. But he's just not like amazing for the side team. He gives HP, so you kind of want him in the front lines too. Moria's amazing on the Dex team. Absolutely incredible for the meta Dex-based team. Arlong kind of sits there with Cracker. He's kind of whatever. Smoothie's not terrible, but not great, just because Sai's so good. This is the reason Smoothie's probably so high. Strussen's a demon. He's a free spirit Sai unit, and paired alongside this unit right here. Like, honestly, Strussen pushes out Rebecca Toy Soldier to the bench, which is just absolutely absurd. Because he's actually that good. Especially for defending, absolute demon. Kobe's okay. He's not amazing, but he's okay. For me, is kind of just dog shit, to be honest. His cooldown's way too high for what he does. The Brogy monsters, honestly, they are so good as a nuking option on the quick team. I wouldn't say they're meta, though, because, like, you always have them on the bench, no matter what. Like, this Sobmask is probably the same, and you could probably argue to me that Sobmask has dropped off quite a bit. But Sobmask being a meta unit is just so good, because you can put him on any bench, and he works absolutely amazing. Dalton for the Dex team is just absolutely cracked. Like, he's so freaking good. Like, he's so freaking strong. Another really good, nuking option for strength is Boa Sandersonia. She works amazingly with the waifu unit, to be honest, which we'll talk about a little bit as we go through the tier list. Next, we've got the Giants. Now, the Giants are really, really good. I do think one's better than the other, and off the top of my head, I can't exactly remember who is better than the other. I think Brogy works better off the bench, where Dory works better off in the front lines. I can't really remember too much, but the two of these guys together for the int-based team, especially the int powerhouse team, it's actually disgusting. Next, we got Corazon. Corazon's good. He's mainly great for defensive-based quick teams, but you definitely can use him. I don't have him, so I kind of want to stick him somewhere between these two tiers. Let me know, like I said, if you guys have some better insight, let me know in the comment section, because I'm sure there's people out there that have way better insight than I do. As for Frankie and Senior Pink, I don't really see them used besides on defensive-based teams. So for now, I'm going to stick them on the defensive-based team. Now, looking at that is all the PvP rare recruits. Obviously, the meta tier, these guys are the best of the best. Like, honestly, looking at what these guys do, I think these guys suck, to be honest. Like, they're just not good. I'm just going to stick them up there. But let me know if these guys, if Frankie and Senior Pink should make it down on the defensive tier list. Could probably be put on a defensive tier list as well. Actually, I'd probably put next to Konus, because, like, Konus is just kind of the same as I guess. This is all the PvP as well as Enel on the tier list. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on the Pirate Rumble characters. But let's kick it off with the Legends. Iso and Kiku is going to be our first meta unit. They are so good for the quick team. When you're versing strength, they just do so much damage. Shogun Frankie can be used on the defensive Free Spirit team. Brook, I think Brook's dropped off a little bit now. I still use him on my team, but I don't really run quick that often, so I don't really have the best expertise per se. But the haste ability is still incredibly strong. Your Rogue is insane when you are versing Sai. He's just so good. When you partner these three up with like something like Lin or Blackbeard, like you can do some crazy things. X-Drake's really good, but he's all based around Action Bind with his special, and if the enemy's immune to Action Bind, it's kind of whatever. Lucky for X-Drake, most Dex characters aren't. Yet the problem with X-Drake, like, I don't really use him too much on my teams, but you definitely can. Like, the strength striker team is still very, very viable. As for Kuzan, I do think Kuzan is very, very good. He's great for taking down the int team, but he's a little bit not quite there for me. But saying that, I have come up against some scary Kuzan teams. As for Anniversary Luffy, probably the best Dex Rumble character in the game. Dex is so freaking powerful at the moment that, like, strength teams can't even penetrate them, and they're just running riot. So, and this Luffy is a staple for that. As for Kaido, like, I don't rate Kaido. I don't think he's very good at all. I think he's probably the worst of the 4 Anniversary Legends for Rumble. bar this Ace Yamato because they're free spirit centric. Thing with Kaido is Kaido is just built around strikers and strength, so you have to build that strength striker team that I keep rambling on about. But if you do it, it can actually work. Ace Yamato, they're good for a free spirit defensive team, that's about it. As for the waifus, I'm going to stick them in the S tier. I don't think they're a meta-based unit at all. I think they're RNG way too reliant. They're just not that amazing for what they do, and I've had worse success than what people talk to me about with this particular unit. As for Akainu, this Akainu probably can be used. I haven't really looked into what the Akainu does for Rumble, but I've never really used him per se. As for Smoothie, I don't have Smoothie, so I'm going to stick her in S tier. Let me know if she should be higher or lower. But I feel like she is a staple on that quick team now. As for this Blackbeard, I use this Blackbeard heaps. The problem with the Blackbeard is he's got the same issue as Kaido. You need to have Int and Powerhouse. Lucky for him, he has something like your Rogue, the Giants. They have Moria, you have Lin. So you have a lot of really good options when it comes to Int and Powerhouse units. However, for that reason, I don't think he's a meta-based unit. I do think he's very good. I just don't think he's a meta-based unit. Sasaki, Black Maria, and Who's Who, I'm not going to rate because I haven't really used them in Rumble, to be honest. Like, I have them and I still want to give them a better go. But I do think that they all have their ups and downs. I do have Who's Who and I do have Sasaki. Spoilers for that one. But I haven't really given them a good go. We'll talk about them at the back end of the video when I have a little bit more of a think about it. Odin. I think Odin's probably a meta unit. I guess you could probably say he's an S tier unit for the strength-based team. Because he boosts strength and slashes, I think we're probably going to stick him here for the same reason we put Blackbeard here. I love running Odin. I have him on my strength teams. He works really, really well. No, look, I'm going to put him up here because like he's so viable in terms of how much damage output he has. And then you also have these two units right here. So when you are versing the strength team, like you have your core basically just right there. Then you have stuff like Kid, you have Toki, it just works out really, really nicely. Verse Ace has kind of dropped off a bit. I kind of use him as a bench nuker nowadays. But he's still really, really good. Absolute demon of a unit. Still can hold his own. As for Carrot kind of found her way onto that slasher team. So I'm going to put her in B tier because that slashers is still like that exception to the class. 6-star Yamato, absolute monster of a PvP unit. When this unit came out, they were just running riot in PvP. Like, it was absolutely disgusting. Akainu, another really, really good unit for the quick base team. Absolutely destroys strength-based teams, and it's just absolutely wild what he can do. This Big Mom is a pretty good nuker, if I'm completely honest. She can be used. I don't think that she is insane, but I do think that she can be used. Alright, so we just zoomed out. Like I said, I'll leave a picture at the end, and I'll leave a link for this if you guys want to come check it out. But Boa can definitely be used on the quick team. I don't think she's amazing on the quick team, but she definitely can be used. Neko and Inu, though, these two guys' combination is absolutely disgusting. Incredibly powerful combination. When you're coming up against Quick, these two just absolutely tear them to shreds. As for Whitebeard can be used. He's definitely dropped off a lot. I don't think he's as good as Kaido, so I'm going to put him in the B tier. You can still use him, especially with his level limit break. He did get better in Rumble, but he's still not incredibly strong. As for Boa, Sabo can be used on the defensive free spirit team, but like there's just so many better Sabos. As for all of these other units that I'm not even mentioning, like Lucci and Rayleigh and stuff, they've all just dropped off so drastically. Or they never even really had a place in Rumble, so we're going to put them straight up there in heaven. As for V1 Shanks. V1 Shanks is a pretty good option towards the back end of a fight for a side team, but he's just not super viable. As for Kuzan and Ace, you can use them on free spirit and shooter teams. They definitely can work, especially for defensive-based teams. But as for Sengoku and Hody and Judge and Mihawk and Zoro, Law and Bardo and Luffy Ace and V1 Law and Crocodile and like V2 Shanks and like Boggy, Jinbei, Luffy, all these characters just like never really had a place when it comes to Pirate Rumble. So we're just going to get rid of them and we're going to move on. As for Kizaru is a very good option for slashers and shooter-based teams. However, again, class teams, they're not exactly where they need to be, but the slasher team is sort of the big exception, and this guy on a slasher team is just so freaking powerful, man. I'm going to put him in B tier, though, because slashers, like, they still, like, have a lot of RNG and stuff, and kind of why this carrot is here as well. Like, they can be used, but carrot can be used on a whole bunch of other teams as well. Tesoro, really, really good for the quick team. Still gives a lot of cooldowns, but, like, has dropped off so much, like, so much. Magellan can be used on the defensive quick team, so that's a pretty good option. Sorry, defensive dex team. And then Corazon. Corazon's actually really good at taking down quick. He has a lot of nerfing capabilities and a lot of healing for you as well. As for Katakuri and Marco Whitebeard, 6+ Judge, and Shiki and Anil. Brook has a 6+ now, so we're not going to talk about 6-star Brook. And Sanji and 6-star carrots here for some reason. Cavendish and Luffy and Katakuri. Zephyr, Dogstorm, Cat Viper. All these characters are kind of whatever. Sanji and Judge. Big Mom and Prometheus. Like, these guys just all, again, never really had a place when it comes to Rumble. But we have some characters we can talk about. We have Frankie for the shooter defensive team. I don't recommend shooter defensive teams, but like he is an option for them. Bardo and Cavendish, great for the driven-based defensive team. That team is actually quite viable. And same with like ESO. So ESO, I can't remember if it's this ESO, or if it's this ESO. But for the driven int team, he does a lot of HP cuts and can actually be used. Int has a bunch of different variations. Int Powerhouse is the one that I like, but Int Driven was so viable for so long. Speaking of Int Driven, we have Doflamingo. I'm going to stick Doflamingo in the S tier because he was so good on both the Driven, the Int, and the freaking Slasher team. So this man's a demon. The legacy of Dofi is going to reign supreme, so I'm going to stick him in S tier. He got a buff with his level limit break as well, so just crazy. Boa can be used on Free Spirit teams, but again, Free Spirit's kind of only good when you're talking about defense. Luffy and Law is an option on the Slasher team, but I think there's just better options, so we're going to take him off. Sabo Koala, definitely an option on the Free Spirit defensive team. Neko and Inu, definitely an option on the defensive Cerebral team. Akainu V1, he's a nuker, but like his nuking's not good enough to be put on a tier list, I don't think. Nami, V1 Nami's not that great. As for Viva Rebecca, Shiroshi Mancherry, not that awesome. Bullet, the Stampede, 2 units of Luffy and Bullet, not great. Kaido, definitely not. 6+ category, no thank you. Halloween Ace, no thanks. Komurasaki, non-super evolution is definitely a no-go for this one. Then we've got Chopper, Subamask, Luffy, and Zoro. Lucy 6+. We've got Nami Robin. We've got Robin herself, Arlong, Marco, Mihawk Perona, Rayleigh, Deadbeard, V2 Snake Man. Like, all these characters just, again, never really had a home in Rumble. But we do need to get rid of them, and I wish I could just right click and just gray them out. That would actually just make my life so much easier, but unfortunately, Sugar, no. Okay, sweet, we've got a row of characters we can actually talk about. Awesome to see. So, the next characters we're going to talk about are Lucci. You can definitely be put on a, you know what, no, shooters. I changed my mind. Well, Frankie can stay there because he doesn't just do shooters. But yeah, like, he's okay. Putting you over 6+, go away. Shanks Crew, definitely a good option for Cerebral or Slasher defensive teams. Very, very good Rainbow unit. Shirahoshi is really, really good for Sai. She can still provide a lot of buffs, gives you a lot of healing for the Sai-based team. This Kuzan, everyone loves this Kuzan. Gives a lot of speed, I'm pretty sure, for quick. Definitely dropped off a lot, but still an option. Blackbeard and Katakuri. When these two came out, they were awesome. Blackbeard, very self-reliant. It does a lot of damage, but just nowadays has been completely replaced by the other Blackbeard. But Katakuri against Sai is still an option, so I'm going to stick him in the A tier. Kid, I think Kid is still S tier. Absolutely awesome for the Dex-driven based team, but again, has dropped off drastically because of some of these other crazy Dex units. Hawkins is an option for the Dex defensive team, and so is Rayleigh. Now, Rayleigh is kind of an exception you could probably put somewhere like up here. If you really, like, if you want to make an argument that he's up here for me in attacking, that's great. But nowadays, with the amount of Dex characters that are out, Rayleigh is just like 6+ Rayleigh is just mainly used on the defensive team. Great for Cerebral teams, great for Free Spirit teams, great for Dex teams. He works as a Rainbow unit, and he works on all of them. My man Wano Law stays winning. I'm going to stick him in meta. Ideally, you want to run him on the Free Spirit, the Free Spirit Sai team. But, like, he's best used is when you're versing Driven and Powerhouse characters. Boa, this Boa is a Free Spirit Sai character. She's not amazing, but she is still pretty decent. As for Jinbei, definitely not. I don't ever recall using sweet commanders. Luffy and Sanji, like, when they first came out, everyone was using them on Japan, but, like, I, like, never really ran them. I thought they were completely overrated in Rumble when they first dropped, and, like, I never really used them. They are a Rainbow unit, but, like, they're kind of whatever. Beige on defensive int or shooter teams works very, very well. mainly for the int team or the driven team, if I'm completely honest, but look, that's where I would use him. As for this Halloween slashes, Mihawk never was really good. He was all about critting, which in my opinion is just not great because it's very RNG reliant. However, Law and Shanks, when they first came out, they were just absolute monsters. I think Law is probably better than the Shanks, but the combination of the two on either a slasher or an int-based team is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Like, incredibly powerful. Alright, we had to zoom out once again, but we're on to Blackbeard. Now, Blackbeard is actually pretty decent at taking down quick-based teams. Not a character that I would just, like, level up, like, right away, because, like, there's just other good Dex units, but he's definitely worthy of being on the tier list. Same with the Kainu. He's pretty good at the back end of a fight for strength, Dex, and quick teams. I just don't think he's as good as something like this, what this Kuzan was, so I'm going to stick him in B tier. V2 Viva Rebecca are a big no-no, but Shirohoshi Manchari V2, very, very good on the defensive Cerebral team. As for Sanji and Pudding, another good Cerebral defensive unit, but 6 plus Zora and 6 plus Sanji, definitely big no-nos. We have 6 plus Mihawk, who is absolute donkey. And then we've also got a bunch of units that we're going to talk about. So, Roger, for me, I still think Roger's a meta unit, mainly because he goes on literally every team that he can fit on. He's got great special, great passive, fits on the Psy Free Spirit team, he fits on the Slasher team, he fits on just a regular Psy team, fits on a regular Free Spirit team. He's very, very good. Very good defending, very good at attacking, an amazing unit all around. As for Zoro, he's an incredible nuker. I don't think he is what he used to be. Don't get me wrong, I do think he's still very good, but I just don't think he is what he used to be because of V2 Doflamingo. Still a great nuking option, though. Alright, we're going to have to start scrolling, so I decided to just bring the tier list back to a position where we can see it. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll leave a picture at the end for you guys as well. So, we're on to, we'll go over here at Nami. She's a great defensive option for quick or Cerebrals. This Blackbeard, very good option for defending with Driven, and same with the Fire Tank Pirates. And the Fire Tank Pirates are so good, even for attacking, but most of the time when using this unit, using them to defend, just like you would be doing with a Sabo, if you were running a Free Spirit team. Looking at some of these other units now, we have some very, very good units that we are going to talk about. So, Komurasaki, another really, really good defending unit for int teams. Absolute exceptional unit. But then we have Kaido. Now, Kaido is still an absolute demon when it comes to the quick base team. He's incredibly powerful. Still a very big staple and still one of the best PvP legends in the game, in my opinion. That's really the only person that ever used Kaido. As for Magellan, Magellan's dropped off drastically. I think he's probably A tier now. Haste is still really strong, but like with like this Luffy kind of like came and sort of... Honestly, actually, no, Magellan's probably better than Luffy. I think Magellan's better than Luffy. Magellan and Luffy both have the haste ability, but I think Magellan's just a lot stronger than what Luffy is. So we're going to put Magellan in S and Luffy in A. Enel, I don't think Enel's a meta unit anymore. I still think he's really good, but like Psy Free Spirit has definitely just overwrote Psy in particular. So I think that like this unit is just absolutely miles above. Like, sorry, the Free Spirit Psy team is just miles above this particular unit. Moria is definitely a meta-based unit for powerhouse and int-based teams. Like I said, int has like a driven and a powerhouse variation, and Moria fits on both. Like, he's so good. He's so freaking good. As for Cracker gives a lot of speed and cooldown, I'm pretty sure, for like a bunch of different classes. So he's an option for you guys, like especially on something like a slasher team or something like a quick team. You definitely can find him on there. As for Bonnie, we're going to stick her up in here in the Heaven section. But then we have Law. Now, Law's not terrible. Like, his counter mechanics become viable, but I think Law is just a product of, like, Dex being so good. As for Kid's definitely the best of the 3 Onigashima units. So we're going to stick him right up in meta. Like, he's so powerful. Great on striker teams, great on driven teams as well, but, like, strength team is where this man absolutely shines. We have Sanji, who's a good, like, this treasure map Sanji can be used as a nuking option. King kind of, like, fell off, or never really had a place on the quick team, because like creatures had so many better options. But Queen's actually really, really good on the Dex team. I don't think he's the greatest option for the Dex team. Saying that, I think he's better than Corazon, so I think I'm just going to put him up here in S tier, because I do think he's probably as good as something like Kid as well. So really, really good at giving HP, really, really good at doing fixed damage as well. Marco is a okay option for the int attacking team. Nowadays, like, he's not the best, but he's definitely an option for that particular team. We don't need this Sabo, but then we have a bunch of other units that we can actually talk about. As for the some defensive units, we have V1 Straw Hats, amazing for the Psy Free Spirit defensive team. We have Reiju, amazing on the int-based defensive team. Very, very good if you have this combination with Perona as well as Komurasaki. These 3 on a defensive team. And then there's like a free-to-play Sengoku. You got to be super careful when you're fighting that team because like it's just scary shit, bro. It's some scary stuff. As for other defensive units, you got Page 1 ulti for the driven-based team. Pudding can be used on an int. You know what? No, Pudding's like kind of dropped off. She was used once upon a time, but nowadays she never really is. Taking a look at some of these other units that just aren't viable in PvP at all. We've got the Beast Pirates. They're never used at all. Robin and Jinbei definitely never used. Cerebral teams, I guess you could probably use Croc on a defensive Cerebral team, I guess. And in saying that too, like I've never really used them per se, but I do know Cerebral's really good at defending. So Robin, Jinbei, and Croc we will stick in this sort of defense category. As for... Did Vershanks and Whitebeard even pop up? Yeah, there they are. As for some more defensive options, let's sort of like pump them out of the way. Defensive options, I can't really... so we have Kinemon Dendro. You can use Kinemon Dendro on a attacking Free Spirit team, like Psy Free Spirit team. But again, you're mainly using them to defend like pretty much every other character in this tier list is. Same with Koala, she can be used on the Free Spirit team. I wouldn't recommend using her, but Free Spirit is very, very powerful. Bon Clay is kind of just no. And then this is Lucy's kind of no as well. Same with Marco. He just never really had a place in PvP anyway. So, coming down to the nitty-gritty end of the tier list and some of these better units. Now, this Brook is another... He's probably the best Dex defensive unit in the game. If you see a Brook on a defensive team, be very scared because like he will mess you up. As for Vivi, I think Vivi's very similar to Marco. Gives a lot of cooldowns and a lot of speed. She's just based around like glass cannoning the crap out of stuff like Dex, but like strength so far behind Dex right now, it's not even funny. Germa's like very, very good. I think that they're probably on par with something like this Aokiji. I like Germa more than this Aokiji, but I still think that the two of them definitely deserve to be put on the same sort of spectrum. Toki for me is a meta unit. I love this combination right here of these 4 units. When you have Toki, or this actually right here is like my go-to strength team right there. Boom. You have like Law, great for HP. You got like the reduction of Dex here with Toki and Kaku, and then you got your damage right here with these 2 units here. But Toki's got a great passive. She nerfs Dex very, very well. She's a very, very good unit, and she's a slasher, so she gets boosted by something like this Law and something like this Odin, which is awesome to see. Next, we've got Doflamingo can be used on the driven-based defensive team. Nami and Usopp, I don't think they can be used at all. Let me know in the comment section below if I'm wrong. Like I said, I've been trying to gloss over this tier list, so we're not here for like days, but let me know if you have any thoughts and opinions on some of these units that I have glossed over in the comment section below. Kuma's an option for strength, but like Kuma missed the mark so freaking hard, man. Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they made that unit, but he can give you a lot of attack. As for some meta-based units, we have Kizaru, amazing for the Dex-based team. If you have sort of this combination right here when it comes to Dex, you are in for a very, very good time. Like, you're in for a great time if you have these 5 units. You have this guy's, these units. These units like this. There we go. If you have this particular team right here, you're in for a very good time. You then also have stuff like Dalton as your nuker and stuff like that. If you don't have Moria, you can easily put Dalton here, and it all just works out really hunky-dory. Dex is so freaking powerful right now. It's actually disgusting how strong the units are. Moving down to another meta unit, we have 6+ Yamato. Free Spirits and Slashes are incredibly good. Like, if we have a look up here, like what we're just doing with these other units, why did Marco end up here? Go away, Marco. You have a lot of very good Free Spirit Psychic, like core, like that's sitting right there. But Yamato is one of your biggest damage dealers. She can halve stats, and if you halve stats and then get like hit, she just kills. She basically just kills 2 units if that happens. However, you do have the monster of the Free Spirit Psy team, which is Odin. Now, this core lineup right here is pretty disgusting. With me, I don't like to really run Wano Law, but like, see these 5 units right here, you got this, you're in for a good time. Like, it's not even fair. You can use Wano Law on the team like this to nerf stuff like Driven Powerhouse, and you are going to just do absolute numbers. But Odin is just an absolute demon. Has a great passive, has an amazing special ability, and even if you're not running the Free Spirit side team and using stuff like Enel and whatnot, Odin's always going to find a way on the team. He does boost Psy, and he also boosts Free Spirit. So that's why all these characters just work really, really nicely together. On to Jack. I don't think Jack is a meta-based unit. On the strength and striker team that has been running around, which like consists of like these 3 units, you then have Kaido over here, and then you've got Kid up the top here. You can do some pretty cool stuff. The problem is they're all legends, and then you have to like find place for PvP rare recruits, and then it gets a bit wonky. But Jack is probably the most viable out of all of these for me, mainly because he's a rainbow booster. So he can not only go on this particular team for strikers, but he can also go on the strength team very easily. He can go on the fighter team very, very easily, and he's a great defensive option as well. So Jack is just really, really good when it comes to PvP. Katakuri, I do think Katakuri is pretty good. He has to go on a like quick powerhouse team, but quick powerhouse has a lot of options. You've got King, you've got Kaido, you've got Kainu, you've got Magellan, you got the Grogi monsters. You have Smoothie. Like you have a lot of options. And Katakuri, whilst I think he's probably towards the back end of this part of the tier list, I do think he is very, very good, and I think he's probably better than most of these characters that are down here. You also have Cracker too as a powerhouse character. Next we've got some very good characters to talk about. This Kaido is never a really good option. I'm gonna put him up in here in Heaven. Big shout out to all the characters in Heaven. Just ignore all these characters, by the way. But let's scroll on down to some of the nitty gritty stuff. So all these characters will find a way on the tier list. Whitebeard and Roger. Now Whitebeard and Roger are an interesting one, right? Because they boost Psi and they boost Int and then they boost Slashes. Now, most of the time you'll see this character on a defensive based team because Slashes are mainly used as defensive-based options. They rely on a lot of RNG, and they're all sort of legend-based. However, this character is like one of the best like Rumble characters because of what they do. You can put them on your your 6th slot, have them come in and get their special, and they can just do absurd things. Because they boost Int and Psi as well, you can put them on an Int and Psi team. They're not going to get boosted under the Int and Psi color because they're a dual unit, which I think is so friggin' annoying. I wish you could just select a color at the start when you add them to the team, and that would be their color for the actual fight, but nevertheless they are colorless, so they do work best on the slasher team. I have been destroyed by this unit so many times, so I have to give them the respect where the respect's due, and they make up what the slasher team really does as a defensive capability. And they are honestly the reason that the slasher team is the exception to that class-based rule when it comes to attacking, because they are so freaking good. Like, they're so disgustingly strong. Another really, really good unit that I am going to put on the tier list that, like, would normally sit here in the defense-based tier list is the other end of it, like the New Year's unit that came alongside Whitebeard and Roger, which is Luffy and his crew. However, I'm going to put Luffy crew in meta. Honestly, I don't really want to. Like, I just think like they're so good, but I just don't think they have a staple on a particular team. So, like, if you have a look at my sort of meta here, you can kind of see an outline for each of these teams, right? As you can sort of see the colors that sort of mash up together, where the Straw Hat crew, like, they don't really go anywhere. They can be, like, used, like, here, because you can use them on both of these teams, because they boost strength, they boost dex, but then they boost free spirits. Now, if you're going to use them, you're going to use them on this strength team, because, like, literally all these characters are free spirit, except for stuff like Kid. They do have that crazy revive mechanic, where they revive themselves at 50% HP, and they have an insane special. But I think because of that wonkiness, very similar to what Wipe and Roger have, that's the big reason why they lose out. And because they're not a strength or a dex character themselves, they only buff themselves with the free spirit class. Don't get me wrong though, I still think they're like top 5 best units in the game. However, that doesn't mean they have a meta spot on the tier list. But if you wanted to make an argument for me, like, you could easily put these 2 units at the back, because they don't really find a meta of their actual like where they sit in terms of like having their own team, I guess, in the top, because the units being dual units are so wonky themselves. However, for what they provide is just it's actually insane what they provide. It's just crazy. As for Carrot Wonder are really, really good for the slasher based team. I think they boost all of the classes that they boost, and they're actually very, very good. I think they're better than these 2 units here for the slasher based team, so I'm going to put them a little bit higher. As I mentioned, the slasher team is the exception to making it on this tier list. So that's the big reason why I've actually got them here. Where the free spirit doesn't make it, team doesn't make it, because like these guys pretty much find a home on this strength based team right here. Nowadays, because of this Luffy, like, you're not using this one, but you guys get where I'm going with it. As for Doflamingo, probably the best nuker in the entire game, honestly, and for me, I run him on this particular team here. Like, as you can see, like, Dex is so freaking strong. However, you don't really need Dofi to make the Dex team to work. He's just a good nuking option, but I do think he's better than this Zoro. So for me, like, I kind of want to put him up there. You could actually, I'm going to put him here because you can run him on the back end. If you have a legend spot, you can put him at the back end of a team, like, easily. Like, very, very easily. So, very, very good unit. Normally, you put him at the front here like this for your nuking options, like that. And then you've got, like, stuff like Dalton here as well. If you don't have Moria, you don't even really need Moria. I'm actually going to drop Moria into the S tier because I just don't think Moria is good as Dalton. For what he can provide this particular team. However, if you do have Moria as well, you put him on the team and then Dalton sort of drops off. So that's sort of the dex-based team and how it operates. Moving down to the last couple of units here, we've got Lucci. Lucci's definitely a really, really good option for Dex. He's another really good option for attacking, very similar to like Queen. He's probably better for defending, but Lucci's still really, really good for that team as well. Kid's a really good option for Driven and Int, mainly for defending, if I'm completely honest. But as I mentioned, like Driven and Int, like they have that correlation, which is really, really nice. As for the lore that came alongside him, I've never really used him in Rumble. He doesn't seem very good, but he does seem like he's a cerebral option. So for that reason, I'm going to stick him in defense. As for Vershanks has dropped off quite a bit. I think he's still pretty good, and he still finds a home like at the back end of a team for Sai. But as you guys can see up here, like Sai just got so many better options that you should be running if you have these particular units. Now, if you don't have these units, you can easily put Vershanks on the team. I think he's probably the next best thing, but I think he's probably on the cusp of these two tiers right here. I guess Germa's actually pretty good. I think Germa's better than Alkaji, so I think I'm just going to leave Alkaji right there. So I do think he's probably at the back end, though, Vershanks, because he's definitely a very good option. He's better as the fight goes on as well. If you put him in the middle slot, he just doesn't die either. Same with Whitebeard as well. Like for the Int Powerhouse team, he's really good. I don't think he's as good as Vershanks on that team, but if you run him at the end, he can do some really, really wild things. As for Linlin, the final unit on this tier list, I love this Linlin. I use this Linlin so much, but she, again, probably same with this Blackbeard, the same issue that I have of boosting Powerhouse and Int is the reason why I'm going to put her towards the back end of the tier list here, rather than higher up, even though I like to run these two, and then I use something like your Rogue, Moria, the monsters, and I use this sort of at the back end here like this. I think I dropped Yamato recently, but like she's still just an absolute demon for most teams. So, alright, so I was about to wrap up the video, and then I scrolled down and I totally forgot about putting the Tobiropo on the tier list. Now, I just got a quick glance over what they actually do, and they're all based around Powerhouse when it comes to Rumble. And look, I have been keeping the trend of doing the defense for the class-based teams, because they don't really have a spot on actual teams themselves. However, Black Maria probably has the most potential here to be used in the front lines, because Quick Powerhouse is so dominant. You have King, you have Akainu, you have Magellan. She gives haste as well. She has a really good passive for powerhouse units. So if you're building a quick powerhouse unit, I do think Black Maria could probably find her way up, honestly. Like, if you have a look at the quick powerhouse lineup right here, like, you have, what, 3 of these units up here are all powerhouse. Like that's pretty good. Like, that's pretty good. However, I don't think that, like, building that team is super viable for all players. So for me, like, I feel like she's probably on the cusp of S, maybe at the top of A. However, as I mentioned, I am going to sort of put her down here. Just with the other 3, I'm going to keep them all together, as they all do stuff centric to Powerhouse. But like I said, let's wrap up the video now. There you guys go. That's the ultimate PvP tier list. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on the list. As I mentioned, the meta tier, if you skipped this part of the video, the meta tier is kind of like what you're using for the color-based teams. Remember, class-based teams, for me, I'd sort of categorize them as defending teams, because they don't really have like a strength or a weakness, and it can be kind of hit or miss from what you're versing. But as you can kind of see, I've sort of separated them into sort of their colors of what, like, you really want to try and focus on putting on the teams, because they just provide so much. These 2 units here are the outliers, because they just, as individuals, they are so freaking powerful. As for the S tier, like, you've got some really good substitutes. Big Mom and Blackbeard, great for the int-based team. You've got this driven sort of option here with Dofi. As for Dex, you've got Lucci, you've got Moria, you've got Kid, you've got Zoro, you've got Queen. All of these characters are very, very good for that Dex option. For strength, other strength options you have are Verse Ace if you're looking for a more free spirit build. You've got that striker-based strength build that I spoke about with these 3 units of Waifus, X-Drake, and Jack. You've also got Kaido. He's a really good option for you guys there too. You've also got Santa Sonia. This Boa Santa Sonia works amazingly alongside this unit right here. She's a powerhouse unit. She's not a striker, unfortunately, but she's free spirit, so there's also that. This unit here is free spirit too, so you have that free spirity kind of strength-based team that you can run. And because Boa's in the name here, Sandersonia gets access to all of her abilities, which is super, super nice. As for size, Scopper, you've got Shanks, you've got Germa, Enel, very, very good units. And then you've got these quick units at the back end. As I mentioned, I'm not sure about Smoothie, but we're going to leave her here for now. As for A, if you don't have the units in S, A is going to be your next best thing. For Int, as you can see, we've got some really good options here. Katakuri is good for nerfing Sai. The combination of Halloween Law and Shanks works great together. And then these two sort of work great for either Powerhouse or the Driven-based build. For the Slasher team, if you're rocking it, Cat Wanda are absolutely amazing, so make sure to slide them on the team. As for Quick, you've got stuff like Luffy, you've got Boa, you've got Kuzan, you've got this Corazon, which can do like big HP cuts, a lot of speed, a lot of cooldowns. As for Dex, you've got Cavendish if you're doing that Driven-y build. You've got Corazon if you want to really, really nerf Quick harder. If you're doing Powerhouse build too, you've also got Katakuri for Quick. As for Strength, if you're running Strength Strikers, Kaido pretty much has to find a spot. But for me, I don't think building that team around this unit like works as good as it does. Alkaji and Smoothie are great sire options if you are missing some of those higher end units. And as for the B tier, like I'm not going to go through these units. They're just kind of here as options for you guys if you want them to be. But I wouldn't really recommend using these guys unless you're just looking for like a temporary fill. As for the defense, if you want to build some of the defense teams with these units, these all work really, really well. Just honestly, just have a bit of a scan of defense and what you see here. Just be very, very careful of, because these particular units are the ones that are going to pop up on defensive teams that you sort of want to just like keep an eye out for. But like I said, that's going to wrap up the tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you guys want me to do more of this stuff, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know by belting the like button for me. But if you're new, you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. But most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, so thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later!